Hello, guys. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. We have here with us today David Waters. David runs a lot of pitch workshops. He's a massive amount of experience in this. So I hope you enjoy what he has to say. Just remember to really pay attention and take on this advice when you're pitching later. It'll really make a massive difference, I think. So, David, I'll let you take over.
Thank you very much. Listen, hello everyone. How are you? Nice to meet you all or e-meet you all now in this COVID new normal that we're in. So as I said there, today I'm focusing on pitching, and this what we're going to do over the next 20 minutes. I'm going to take you through some of the main content that needs to be in your presentation and how you need to deliver this content. A little bit about myself. So as was said, I've run a number of these pitching workshops before. I've also competed in these competitions. I've mentored, I've judged. So I've got a good breadth of experience from being where you are right now on the day of the presentation. I know the nerves you're going through. So what I'm going to try to do is give you advice and help and guidance that can help you along the way, okay? So let's get stuck in. So first things first, entrepreneurship is about finding ways to solve real problems. So you're probably thinking, why is he telling us this for? And it's because of this word, problems, okay? It's all about solving problems. So when you start your pitch, the first thing you need to do is tell people what is your problem, because without a really well-rounded or a real problem, what are you solving? Okay, and why is opening with the problem so important? As I said, this helps establish the need for your startup, your business, your organization, your NGO, whatever it is. It establishes the need for it. Okay. The next thing is you want to communicate the target market. It helps you communicate your target market, but also it validates what you are doing. Okay, so these are three very broad things. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you now an example of a problem statement. Okay, so this is different. So I'm not putting what I've done here is I've said fill in the blanks. Okay, so look at the red there. The red is essentially what you would want to be putting in with your own. So it says percentage of a target market in an industry face problem globally, resulting in Y% of losses every year, okay? So for example, with your problem or with whatever idea you've come up with, you want to tell people what is the problem you've identified. So you're saying a percentage of our target market, who you're targeting in a certain industry faces this problem, okay? And what that's done is you've validated that by doing research and finding out that a percentage of your target market faces problem. Now, the really important bit is what's the impact of this problem? Because if the problem doesn't really impact anybody mainly, or there's not a real loss or significant effect from this problem, there's not really a problem that needs to be solved. So here it says resulting in Y% of losses every year. So for example, I could say 50% of sales managers in the events industry face reduction in sales due to COVID, globally resulting in 60% of losses every year or this year. That would be a problem. I've articulated the percentage, the target market, the industry, and that's in a sentence. And if you see those red bits, there's 5 pieces of information in that one sentence. So that's what you want to do with your pitch. You want to get as much information out in a concise manner in a very short period of time. So part 2 of this problem statement is, as a judge or as someone, I'm always looking for what research has the team done themselves. So this could be an example of a sentence you would say, we surveyed number of who, from where, and a percentage said something to support your problem statement, okay? So let's look at the one, what I just said about event managers. I could say, we surveyed 100 event managers from the Leinster area, and 80% said that they have suffered significant losses over the past 3 months. And these losses resulted around an average between 70 and 80% of revenue. So what I've done there is I've stated a problem, and now I've backed up with my own research that I've researched, and this is a problem they face, okay? And a big part is validating the problem. So I know a lot of investors, and at the very early stages, that is what they look at. What is the problem this business is trying to solve? Because everything else can change, but the problem is nearly the core to the business. Okay, so I spoke about the problem. Next, we're going on to the solution. So how are you solving this? It does what it says in the tin, okay? What is your solution to this problem? Who are you? So who's your business? Who are you? What does your solution actually do? Can you show me? And what is the outcome for your customer? Okay. So you've explained your problem, lovely, and now you're introducing, and this is how we're solving it. Where, I don't know, ABC Limited, really generic name there. This is a solution. This is what it does. I'm going to show you a couple of examples here on the screen here. So I was pointing to a screen there, but in the virtual world, it's probably the slides or whatever you're presenting, you're sharing your screen. And then you're asking, what is the outcome for your customer or the benefits? So as before, here's an example of how you would maybe explain a solution. So as you explain your problem, you would say, we are, name a business, name of your team, name your organization, whatever. This is what is the solution? Okay, so is it a software solution? Is it a product? What is it? Which helps target market to solve the problem and the outcome of solving the problem. Okay, so that's what you're looking at. Okay, so we are, name your team. This is what is the solution, which helps target market to solve the problem and the outcome of solving the problem. So once you use this product and the problem solved, what's the outcome for your target market, for your audience? Okay, and then again there, that's one sentence, but within that sentence, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of information that the judges now have. Okay, then again, when you're showing your solution, you can add this line. As you can see here, we've created this is where you show your prototype or visuals of what you designed of the solution in action. Okay, so if you're designing an app or a software, if you might want to show a prototype or an MVP, which is a minimal viable product. Okay, now maybe you don't have one you can show readily. Have some design. Go on Canva, go on some design platform and create something you can show people what this will look like. How will this use? If you've designed some sort of video demo, brilliant, show that as well, okay? So underneath here, I've said show designs of what the solution will look like and explain what people are looking at. Really important, explain what people are looking at, okay? Don't just assume they're going to understand. Or play a video, no audio, I'll explain that in a second, of the solution and talk through what people are watching. The reason I always say if you're showing a video, if you're especially in person, never play audio. Talk through what people are looking at. You don't want the attention to go to a video. You want to stay on you, okay? Number 2 is if the video doesn't work, you want to have to rely on yourself, okay? So always have a backup plan. So have maybe a slide afterwards showing maybe the graphics. Always have a backup plan, okay? And the reason if the audio doesn't work, you want to talk through it and it keeps the attention on you, okay? So that's the next thing. So that's kind of your solution. So really think about showing the solution. And let's looking at the judging criteria as well. You're being judged on the problem and impact. So the opening is really important. The execution and design. Showcasing your solution. This is you showing the judges. This is the execution and design of our solution. This is where you're going to pick up your points and your marks for that there from the judges, okay? So let's keep moving on. So I'm actually going to go back here for a second. I said here, like, name a business, what is the solution, target market, solving the problem, and the outcome of the problem, okay? So the outcome of solving the problem, and this comes on to benefits, okay? So the outcome of solving the problem is the benefit to your target market, to your consumer, okay? So benefits really clearly are not the features of the solution, okay? So I'm going to give a really basic example here, right? If you watch an advertisement on TV that's selling chocolate, okay? They don't say on the ad, this has, and they list all the ingredients. They don't do that. They don't say how cheap it is. They show somebody really enjoying themselves having a bar of chocolate because it's tasty and it makes you feel good and you have it when you want to relax, okay? Those are the benefits of it, okay? Those are the benefits. It's not the features, isn't like the ingredients or the process. It's the end outcome of using that product, okay? So if you're selling, for example, if someone's selling a software solution to salespeople, usually the benefit of that is that they're more productive so they can increase their revenue and their sales, okay? So it's not the feature of a product, it's the benefits of the product, okay, of using it. The benefits makes the case that the solution provides value to your target market, okay? It's all about the value of what you've created is bringing. It proves that you've solved the problem in a meaningful way, okay? And you're backing it up, okay? I said here, try to back this up. So try to prove that this actually solves the problem, such as you thinking, oh, well, prove that it will. And this is an example of what benefits are, okay? Saving money, productivity increases in a company, access to more sales, makes life easy, etc. Okay? If it's something like an NGO, like our mental health charity, for example, the benefit is people have better mental health, people are healthier. It's not necessarily the service, it's what the benefits of providing the service, okay? So if someone gets their hair cut, it's not that their hair is shorter, it makes them feel good, they might go out and get photos taken, all this stuff. It's the benefit of using a service or a product. Okay, so that's what you want to focus on as well when you're talking about your benefits. Okay, and this comes down to the impact, which is something else that you're being judged on. Okay, so next one is route to market. So important. So you've done your problem, you've done your solution, you've done your benefit. You think you're doing really good. You think, yeah, we've got this in the bag. This is the most important, one of the most important parts of your presentation is your route to market. Okay, so what does this mean? How do you get customers? Okay, that's what it means. How do you actually get your customer or your consumer? You've identified them, you know they have a problem. Now, how do you get what you've created to them? Okay. And what do you need to do this? For example, so if you're setting up, say it's a software solution, say for example, it's a software solution you're creating. So you have a team of 2 people. So what do you need to make this work? You might need someone to build the software. You might need someone to sell it. You might need someone to market it. You might need someone to do customer service, someone to do troubleshooting, but technical troubleshooting if the client faces the problem with it. So you need all these people, not only to get it to market, but also to manage it afterwards. Okay, how much is all this going to cost? Okay, so one of the main things people don't think about when they're pitching an idea or something is how many people are you going to need to make this happen, and how are you going to pay for these people, and how is that going to work? And you might not need to go into all that detail straight away, but it's something to think about. And I want you to remember this example I'm using about people and cost and what needs people that you need to make this work. I want you to remember this because I'm going to be coming back to this later on into it. And number 2, route to market is next steps. Okay, so in your presentation, even though it's very early days, as a judge, I always looked when people had what they were going to do next once the hackathon was over. What was their plan afterwards? I was always interested in seeing that they think about the day after. Okay, so that's your next steps. So and this is going to be judged. This is all about feasibility. How feasible is your idea? Can you actually deliver this? Have you got the resources, the skills needed to make this work? Okay. So next one, show me the money. Okay. So this is whether it's a business, an NGO. If you don't have money, you don't have a business, you don't have an organization. So how do you make money? How do you get money in? What are your revenue streams? How do you charge for your solution? How much do you need to cover your costs? And will this model work? There's a lot of stuff there, but essentially what you need to know is, if you're selling a product or a service, how do you make money? How are you charging people? So some examples of business models would be LinkedIn. I'll give you a LinkedIn example. So LinkedIn's way of making money, number 1 is advertising, but 2, subscriptions. So they have the freemium service, which most people use. They have their sales navigator, which costs money. They have their premium. So they have different tiers and different ways you can engage, target different customers. So they have various revenue streams coming in. Netflix, another example, is a subscription-based service. Okay, then you'll have something like, say, Sky Movies. Actually, no, Disney Plus. Disney Plus, you've got a subscription-based service, but then they'll have certain content that you have to pay for. So earlier this year, Disney released Milan, so that'll cost extra. I'd say a subscription service. That's their business model, is subscription-based service, and then some add-on cost for more premium content. Okay, so that's another example of a business model. So when you're selling, what is your business model? How are you making money? How much is your solution going to cost, and what are you bringing in to cover your costs and have a little bit of extra, which is the profit? Okay, so think about that. How do you articulate this? Okay, so those are the main things, but there's 3 other things here you need to consider as well, right? 1 is competitors. Who are your competition? Now, some people might be there thinking, we don't have any competition. You always have competition, okay? So one of the things you're being scored on is originality. So how do you prove you're original in the market you're targeting? You look at what everyone else is doing. What are they doing? How are you being original? How are you standing out? What is unique about what you're providing, okay? So maybe you're not completely designing a brand new product, but you're taking a technology that's never been used in this industry before and you're applying it. And the competitors and the other market leaders aren't doing this. That makes you unique. Okay, so understanding your competitors understands where you fit into the market, how you position yourself to customers, how that feeds into your marketing plan. So really important that you showcase that you've done your research of the competitors and the other market players. Okay, and how some people do this when presented in these type of presentations as a competitor analysis grid. If you Google and you get an example, usually it has the competitors on the top and the criteria down the side, and it ranks how you do compared to competitors, right? So that's something to think about. Team, so important. Who is the team making this happen? So earlier on, when I said route to market, I spoke to you about people and how this happens. This is a big part of it. If you have a team of people and you're putting out a software and like a software or some app or whatever, and you have somebody who can code, you have someone who can sell, you have someone who's got experience in the industry, the team looks really impressive, and suddenly your idea becomes really feasible because it has people there who know how to do this. Now, if you don't have all the experience you need, my advice is find a mentor. Find mentors you can say that are advising you on other aspects. So you're going into an industry, you don't know loads about the industry, you haven't got the experience, but you have mentors who do, and they're guiding you. That gives me, if I was an investor or judge, okay, well, they're aware that they don't have that skill, but they found mentors who can help provide that. And it makes me think that you thought about it, okay? So as a judge, you're not looking for all the answers, you're looking for the thought process. Have they thought about this? Is it something that they're aware of? They thought about how they're going to deliver this, okay? And the next one is what's next? Back to my point earlier, it's all about what are the steps after this hackathon's over? What are you going to do to make this happen? And this all feeds into feasibility, route to market, business model is not only this is a good idea, but they can deliver it, and they've got next steps. They've got like a plan of how they're going to do this, okay? And it shows thought, okay? So that was like a really big whistle stop tour of like the main things, okay? The main content you should include in your presentation. But the next thing I'm going to move on to is how to communicate your idea to the judges, okay? So you got all your great content, but how do you deliver this, okay? Really important. So one, slides are for your audience. They're not for you, they're for your audience, okay? So what does that mean? Keep them clean, clear, and to the point, okay? Because when you do that, people know what they're looking at. So the biggest time I've seen people fail this is when people are showing their market research. I would see a slide with loads of graphs, and I'm as a judge, I'm thinking, what am I looking at here? I don't know what I'm looking at. So I might be looking in one corner, another judge could be looking somewhere else, and then the person talking is talking about something completely different. So it's very confusing. It's not clear, it's not to the point, and it's not helpful. It's not helpful for me, and it's not helpful for the person pitching, because nobody knows what to take away from those slides. So when you're building your slides, really think about what am I trying to communicate here? What do I want those judges leaving with knowing? And this comes on to tip 2. What is the key message? Know what your key message is and make sure it comes across, okay? So an example, if you look at the last 3 slides I made, right? I made sure my key message was bolded and in capital letters, so it was not missed. So know your audience, clean, clear, and to the point, and key message. So even if you can't follow what I'm saying, you're seeing that straight away. So it's complementing what I'm trying to say. It's trying to enhance the message I'm getting across. When you're doing your slides, be thinking yourself every slide, what am I trying to communicate here? Is this the best way to communicate this? And edit. Don't just throw everything out there. Really think about the main things you want to get across, okay? Tip 2.1. So when you're communicating the message, it's really important how you communicate it, okay? Number 1 is pace. Don't talk too fast. And the irony of me saying that from Donegal with a really fast accent, saying don't talk too fast, but really try not to talk too fast, because when you do that, you lose your message, okay? So for an example of that is, if I was saying selling like a sales software, and the main message is that if you use this, you'll increase your sales by 50%, okay? This is an example at the top of my head. If I said it like, okay, if you use our software, your sales will increase by 50%. Super fast. The person listening might have a clue what's going on. But if I say it, if you use our software, your sales will increase by 50%. Slower, more controlled, and straight away the message lands better. Tone of voice, exactly the same. So taking the same line, if I'm going to say the same line 2 different ways, okay? So I'm going to say the first time really with no real inflection in my voice. If you use our product, your sales will increase by 50%. Listen to this one. If you use our product, your sales will increase by 50%. Emphasis on the word 50%. Sales will increase by 50%. If I say, now, let's combine both of them. I might go really, no inflection in my voice, really fast. Your sales will, if you use our product, your sales will increase by 50%. Turn around. If you use our product, your sales will increase by 50%. Big difference between the 2 examples, okay? It's very much an extreme, but I want to get it across. A really easy way of understanding this in everyday life is if someone says, how are you? And you say, yeah, I'm grand. Now, if someone says, yeah, I'm grand, or someone says, yeah, I'm grand, completely different. So tone of voice and how you communicate stuff in a presentation matters. So really think about that as well. And that helps get across your key message. I'm running over time here. I have a wee clock to say. Next one, use of silence. So that is if you make a big announcement, or if you make a big point, like your sales will increase by 50%, pause, let people take that in, then move on to the next thing. So for example, if you use our product, your sales will increase by 50%. So you say, if you use our product, your sales will increase by 50%. Let's look at this further. See the pause. You want people to take that in, all right? So that's an example of that. Tip 3, practice, 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 and feedback, okay? And here's a tip. If you want really harsh, honest feedback, record yourself and watch yourself back. You will be your toughest critic. It will be hard to watch yourself back. It is not easy, but it will be good because you will be your toughest critic. And then get your team to give you feedback. Present to people that you would feel maybe a bit embarrassed presenting around, because if you can do it in front of your family, your friends, it's easy to do in front of strangers, okay? So that's another thing I would advise to do, but practice makes perfect, okay? And last one is in the Q&A with the judges, if there is one, what I would advise you to do is, if you have, for example, in maybe like a 3-minute Q&A, one judge might ask a question on your product or your solution, and a member of the team might talk for 2 minutes to maybe 2.5 minutes. You then only have time for one question, if even, to answer that. Now, if there's judges, all judges might have a different question for the team. So how do you make sure you get to all judges? You keep your questions short, to the point, and you answer the question that's being asked. If you don't have an answer, just say where's something we're looking into. Don't waffle, because the more you talk and the more you waffle, the more it gets lost. Okay, so as this question is being asked, keep it short and sweet and to the point, and get the key message across which the judge is looking for. Because when they're asking you a question, they're looking for something that they don't, information that they don't have, that will help you win. Okay, and that's it. That's the main thing now. So I went over time there about 2 minutes, but those are kind of the main points in content and delivery that you need to get across. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'm going to jump back on here. Yep. Perfect. So that's the main talk done. So I'm available on LinkedIn. If anyone has any questions, just send them my way. If anyone wants to put any comments into the, I know we'll go over the time to talk, but if anyone wants to put any comments into the chat there, any questions they can ask me, I can spend a couple of minutes asking any specific questions anybody might have. And if there's no questions, that's no problem at all. But listen, anyone out there, best of luck with your presentation today. What I would advise people to do is to not overthink it, to enjoy the process, and to less is more. Okay, is a video a good idea? It depends. So for example, I would say use a video if you're showcasing your solution, but just make sure, number one, if it's virtual, that you can play the video. So if you can test the software first, that the video will play in the software, do it, because if it doesn't work, it's just going to throw you off in the middle of your presentation. I think videos are a great way to demonstrate your software, whatever you're doing, but just make sure that it works, and don't have audio. Talk through what people are looking at, because if it doesn't work, you weren't relying on audio to cover that part of the presentation. You're prepped yourself. As in the presentation, couldn't line down a solution. Yeah, I think it is a good idea, but then again, whereas it's done virtually, just test that you can, where you're presenting on can do the video. I would advise don't have an audio and just presenting it yourself, like talking through what people are saying. So this is from Eva. Hi David, should we show a prototype of our idea in the pitch if we only have 5 minutes to pitch? Ooh, it's a good one. Then again, it comes down to what the video is. For example, so I've seen pitches before where people have shown like maybe like a 30 seconds. So when you're talking through your solution, you can say, okay, as you can see here on, I'm pointing to a screen when there is no screen. As you can see here on the video, this is how the user would be. So and talk through the process. So it is possible. It's all about the length of time in the video and how important it is you want to get across. So yeah, no, it's pitch by pitch basis, but if you can put a 30-second video in there and it ties into your presentation nicely, I would definitely advise you to do a video. Then again, I just want to put this out clearly. Make sure that when you're presenting on, that the software is able to do that and it's not going to create problems for you. So That's one thing I'll just be aware of. So try to get practice of that. But I would say if you can put it in, do it. If it adds to your presentation. If you don't need to do a video or just doesn't fit naturally, cut it. It's very much case by case. And does the solution providing need a video? Okay. So if you're showing people to walk people through a software, show it. If not, you don't need it. So just think very carefully about, do you actually need it or not? But if you can, definitely go for it. So case by case basis. I know that's kind of not answered the question, but Eva and Gail, has that answered your question? Okay, so Ben, for next steps, how optimistic, realistic should we be in our plans? Ooh, that's a very good question. I would say be optimistic. I would say you can, it's a tough one. You want to be optimistic, but you don't want to be kind of unrealistic at the same time. So what I would say is, what are the achievable next step? What's your goals? What's the SMART goals? Is it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely? Okay. So for example, if you say we want to be say if someone was doing a food product, which wouldn't be done this weekend, and you say we want to go global in all the supermarkets, that's unrealistic. That's never going to happen. But if you say we're going to target this, we're going to target small niche stores in this locality and try to get on the shelves, that's more realistic. Okay. So I think it's important to know where you want to go and say this is the goal, but over the next period, this is what our focus is. And this comes down to route to market. It comes down to how are you going to slowly get into the market? How are you going to build customers? How are you going to do that? And one thing I would recommend, that's what you do. And there's this really cheesy expression, is how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? If any vegetarians out there, apologies for that analogy. But how do you take on a big challenge one step at a time? So small steps to achieve your goal. So don't make any bombastic statements like, oh, in year one, we're going to make $1 million profit. Don't come out with statements like that. Just say step-by-step goals to help you get to where you're going that are realistic and attainable. Okay. And that comes back to feasibility. Always be asking yourself, is this feasible? Can we do this? So just think about stuff like that there. But I would say if you want to talk about the size of a market, talk about when you're talking about how big the market is globally, like the industry itself, how big it is. That's a good chance to talk about the scope, how it can grow. But don't say we're going to grow to this in a year or 2 years, because it can be overwhelming. How should we answer judges' questions if we don't have a definitive response yet? Yeah, that's a tough one. Number one, don't waffle. Don't try to waffle the response, okay? But what I would advise you to do, if you got asked a question like, have you done your financial projection for the next 2 years? I don't think any judge would be that cruel. But if you got asked a question like that, just say that, so I'll give you an example. Someone asked me, David, this is your business. What's your projection for the next 2 years in terms of profit? What I would say is, well, we haven't done those full projections yet, but what we have done is we've worked out that the cost of providing this product is going to be X. We're going to sell it for Y, and this is going to generate Z profit. We hope to target X amount of a market over the next 6 months. And when we do that, it's going to give us more information on how we can grow this. Based on the industry, this is what all our companies have done, and we think it is attainable over the year, but exact projections, we haven't got it full yet because we need more information. And that's fine. I think just be open, be honest, but be aware of what you might not know and have a response ready. Just don't waffle. To a certain extent, obviously, as the clock is ticking, so just going back to Gail there, yes, to a certain extent, obviously, as the clock is ticking, it's important to ensure that we can give the judges a preview of how this is feasible. Yeah, so I think that's in terms of whether to do a demo. I would say if you can show the judges that, if you can show a product demo in it, do it. Just make sure it doesn't suck up all your time, because you still need to cover things like how you're going to get to market, the cost, revenue, your business model. So just ensure that it doesn't take up the entire presentation. But if you can show it, it can add a lot to your presentation. Just don't have audio talk it through yourself. That's what I recommend. But yep. Adam McNeil says, thanks, David. It's been really useful talk. Thank you very much, Adam. Justine, I don't know if that's answered your question in terms of how to respond to judges. What I would say is be aware, know what you don't know going into the presentation. The judges are going to ask you questions based on the criteria, so it's going to help them judge. And I would say if you don't know something, prep a line for it and just try to give some form of an answer without waffling, but just know what you don't know when you go into it, okay? Which I would say is the best advice to going into any meeting or any talk. Know what you don't know. because I will just be ready for it and own up and don't try to waffle it. Waffling's worse than just saying we're not sure, we need to look into that. But if you try to cover like the areas I said in the presentation and have some understanding or some response to those kind of key areas, you should be okay. Just wondering, does anyone else have any other questions? I know the demo one has come up before. I just say to people again to reiterate, if you can fit a short demo into your presentation, do it. Whether it's screenshots, whether it's a video, just keep it short and concise and make sure that it's short and concise, and just make sure it doesn't suck up your whole presentation, okay? Or it doesn't cause any technical difficulties. Just make sure you can trial out the video and see if it works before using it, okay? So don't bank on it. And if it doesn't work, have a backup plan, all right? So it's great. So if there's not any more questions, I suppose, if someone wants to jump back in, but that is great.
Thanks, David. Thank you so much for the presentation, and thanks, guys, for asking so many questions. It's brilliant. So yeah, I'll just ask you all to jump back into the Discord and make sure to really get started on your presentation and try to work in some of these points that David brought to you. So David, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks very much for having me. Best of luck to everybody today. Seriously, I've been there before. I know what it's like on the Sunday that you can be getting on. But listen, you'll have a great experience, and when the day's over, just be so proud of what you've achieved.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, David. We'll end it here.